All right, first off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lectures, and everyone here today for the opportunity to, well, to conclude, finish this topic, Purpose of Tao. Last time we were talking up to here on this slide. So this slide basically we're talking about, to kind of purify the heart and mind, wash away anxieties, utilize the false forms to cultivate the true self, and to restore oneself to its original natural state. And we have to distinguish, or we have to recognize what's false and what's true, right? The only thing that's true, there's only one thing that's true, and that is our true nature, that essence. Okay, that's the Tao. That is the only thing that's true, and everything else is false, including this body that we have, this world that we live in. It's all false. But because we are here, we are living in this world. We have to take or make use of these false forms in order to cultivate ourselves, to restore ourselves to our original state of, you can say, original state of purity, of quiescence. Okay, and so that is going from the false and returning back to the true. And so we shouldn't get caught up, don't get attached to the forms. The forms are just a tool for us to use in this life. Okay, so nothing more, really. It's nothing more. Okay, so, and if we can let go of those attachments, desires, attachments for these forms, these false forms, then our anxieties, we can purify ourselves and get rid of those anxieties. Okay, so I talked about here where we're starting. There's a story. Okay, so it says, with arrogance, karmic debt collectors will arrive, and so it's talking about this face sore. Okay, all right. So this story. Once upon a time, there was a profound master. Okay, Zixuan. Okay, Zixuan. Before he became famous, he once met a monk who was sick. Right, so Master Zixuan was compassionate and took good care of that monk. After the sick monk fully recovered, he told Master Zixuan, if there is a disaster or a calamity, or whatever trouble in the future, he can come look for him at Caolong Mountain. Okay, so the monk, he went off, and and then later on, the emperor at the time was Yizong of the Tang Dynasty. Okay, so this is around the Tang Dynasty is it's like it's from 600 CE to 900 CE. Okay, so he granted somewhere in that time frame, he granted Master Zixuan as the what they call a guoshi, which is an imperial preceptor. So that's a title conferred on certain Buddhist monks. Okay, so you can say that he's like the monk of the royal court or something like that, and gave him the title Uda. Okay, and invited the master to live in the Guan Temple, which is it's basically you can say the imperial temple, to preach the Buddha's Dharma. Now, at the same time, in order to pay respect to and support the master as imperial preceptor, the Emperor Yizong gave the master a sandalwood chair. So I guess it's kind of a special chair. Seeing how the sincerity of seeing how the emperor was very sincere, the master, he didn't refuse. So he accepted this assignment, or this post, if you will. Now, one day, Master Uda suddenly developed a face sore on his knee. So this is not a sore on his face. Okay, so he got a sore on his knee, but it looks like a face. Okay, it's kind of odd, and he suffered unbearable pain from that. Now, so the emperor, of course, because the emperor is supporting him, hired many famous doctors to try to treat him, but there was nothing that they could do to help him. So then the master, the Uda, he suddenly remembered that what the sick monk told him right before he left. Says, so the master, he traveled to Shisu to find the monk. And after he found the monk, he told the monk of the sword that was on his knee. So the monk told him, there is spring water at the bottom of the mountain. After you can go there tomorrow and then to wash your sore with the water, and then you will get better. So on the second day, when Master Wuda was washing his knee, suddenly the face sore, right, the face that's on the sore, began to speak. And it says, you were Yuan Ang. Okay, so this person in the Han Dynasty, which is roughly from 200 BCE to 200 CE. So this was, like, well, at least 400 to, well, depending on what part of the dynasty he was living in, it could have been anywhere from 400 to 1,000 years before. Okay. And I was Cao Cuo. Okay, so that's the face sore saying that. We were both officials in the same court, and you, which is referring to that Master Wuda, or back then, he petitioned the emperor to behead Cao Cuo with sin. Okay, so I don't know if there was some kind of he probably did something wrong or something, or he framed him. It's not clear, but anyways, so thereafter Cao Cuo was beheaded, right, in the Dongsi, which is the East Market. Okay, so now ever since, so I begged to get revenge over many lifetimes, right? So remember, there was probably at least 400 to up to 1,000 years between that previous lifetime and the current lifetime. Okay, and then so, but you were an eminent monk for 10 lifetimes. So, the master, he's a monk in this lifetime, but for the past, 9 lifetimes or 10 lifetimes, he was always a monk. And therefore, he's cultivating. Therefore, and he strictly practiced the disciplines. Therefore, the person who was killed, I did not dare offend, encroach upon you. However, you are now favored by the emperor and enjoy your life too much, right? Even so much as to feel proud and arrogant at times, right? So this monk, now he's like the imperial preceptor, so he's like the biggest, highest level monk, if you will, within the kingdom. So I guess he probably felt kind of proud and arrogant at times. So that's when I got my chance for revenge. Now the venerable master washes me with the samadhi water to uplift me to the Western paradise, or the heaven. So from now on, the feud and enmity between us can be resolved. Upon hearing this, Master Uda felt ashamed and repented in silence. As he continued to use the spring water to wash his knee, the face sore healed immediately. Okay, so after recovering from the sore, Master Uda pondered how his karmic debt from past lives would have been difficult to resolve if he had not met that saintly monk. As a result, he resolved to self-reflect and repent sincerely, and he wrote 3 volumes of this Samadhi Water Repentance, which has been distributed widely to ferry and persuade or encourage people to basically to transform themselves. All right, so So he realized that monk, the master realized that, yeah, I mean, well, this is, I think we talked about this, I mentioned this, before, is that, yeah, as long as different stories where if we are cultivating, then our karmic creditors or debt collectors, they cannot touch us. Well, it depends, but for the most part, they won't touch us. Okay, they won't bother us because we are cultivating, we are performing merits, and because these things they can benefit from that, and we can pay off the debts that way. But as soon as we, so in this case, I mean, even though the monk is kind of, I guess he's still cultivating, but he became proud and arrogant, and so that is that's really not becoming of a monk or a cultivator, really. And so uh, because of that, then this karmic creditor had a chance to then exact his revenge. Okay, so so we, you've heard of other stories like that. The lecture, or yeah, is a lecture. I think it was a lecture or temples in Taiwan who same thing, similar thing happened where he was in the temple and cultivating, and it was fine until he left the temple because of kind of personal issues, and therefore then the creditors they caught up to him. Okay, so that's kind of a lesson for us to realize that, yeah, to know that we should not stop at any point in cultivating. Okay, as soon as we do that, then because we don't know what kind of karmic debts we have, we don't know what's I mean, they're waiting for us they're waiting for that opportunity to get their revenge. Now, maybe we didn't do something so seriously as killing someone or ordering someone to be killed, but but still, there are a lot of things that can, we can get cancer, we can get all sorts of things can happen to us as a result of the karma. So, but as long as we cultivate, make sure we are always cultivating. And part of that cultivation, of course, is to maintain a proper, good attitude, right? So no arrogance, no, not being too proud, and all that. So always self-reflecting and repenting. That is the type of attitude that they like. I mean, I don't know, that's what they want to see, okay, in us. So in other words, being humble, right? We have to be humble, be respectful, always. And that's always, that's part of the cultivation. All right. Okay. All right, so the next phrases says, 启发良知良能之至善. Okay, so to manifest the highest compassion of one's conscience and virtue, right? 己利利人, to establish oneself and help others establish themselves, and 己达达人, okay, is to achieve and help others to achieve. So cultivation is not only good for ourselves, but it must also be good for others. In other words, we're not just cultivating for ourselves, although, yeah, I mean, we are doing that, but the purpose is also to help others, right? To be a benefit to others. If we're just doing it for ourselves, for our own salvation, then that's like that's not the path of bodhisattvas and Buddhas. Okay, that's the path of arhats. Okay, so but that was the past, that was in the previous eras, the cultivation of previous eras like that. But now we're in the white eras, therefore it is we should be cultivating in the path of bodhisattvas and Buddhas, which means it's not just for ourselves, but for others, for the benefit of others. So it is not only to think of oneself, but also to spread the grace of heaven all over the world. People existing or living in this world should give them a sense of mission or purpose. A person's existence must benefit those around him, right? To establish oneself and to achieve oneself. first one must affirm, or be certain of, or be confident in, and believe in oneself. Okay, so and do not doubt one's abilities. Yeah, we shouldn't. Having self-doubt is basically leads to self-defeat. So in other words, we have to have confidence. We have to have some self-confidence. Okay, it doesn't mean that we're too confident in ourselves, and then we become like proud and arrogant. But you have enough confidence to realize that, yeah, I mean, we can cultivate. Everyone's different level, but within our level, we should be confident within ourselves to know that what we can do, how much we can do, but not be afraid. Have that courage to even to try things that maybe we think we don't. Yeah, I mean, think that we can't do, but okay. So it's kind of like we have to push ourselves too, but so. Yeah, everyone is capable because we have that Buddha nature. I mean, there are, of course, limitations you can say physical limitations or that kind of stuff. But, we are very capable because we have that Buddha nature, that true nature. So to bring about peace in the world starts from oneself, right? It starts from the individual. And then it spreads out to, the family, this community or society, the country, and the world, right? We must cultivate and nurture our heart, mind, and character, and transform others in the process. Okay, so today's society is full of ethnic opposition and antagonism. There is racial discrimination and international ideological hostility, right? Only by way of compassion and tolerance can we resolve these issues. Right? The purpose of Tao is not for us to close the door and cultivate in isolation, but to ferry and encourage, inspire, and motivate people to cultivate Tao together so that each individual's Buddha nature can be revealed. Right? So, we can certainly cultivate ourselves, and we know about, we see the Tao and we studying the Tao, and we're practicing, cultivating. But yeah, that's only half of what you can say our purpose is. That's only half the purpose. The other half is to try to help others, to be a benefit to others, to help others also be able to, cultivate, to receive the Tao. Right? So that is the ultimate. That's the only way to achieve this world peace, right? And harmony and unity. Okay. Because if we just do it ourselves, then, well, that's it. We're not changing the world, right? We need to help transform the world. And that's what the purpose of Tao is. Okay. All right. Okay. So the highest excellence as the body or essence, right? The conscience, the innate knowledge and ability as the use or function. So our original nature is of the highest excellence, right? Being kind-hearted, that the highest excellence, right? 至善. Okay, so that's, you can say kind-hearted, good and honest, all these good virtuous qualities. The highest excellence is the body in essence. When used or applied, it is the conscience. Okay, so basically the highest essence, yeah, that's the true nature, the Buddha nature. And you can say one of its applications is the conscience. So 良知, right? It is to know without thought. So you can say it's innate knowledge, noumenon, okay, that's a psychology term, and intuition. So in other words, it's not coming from the outside. It's not coming from, it's not external knowledge, not something that you learn. It's innate, it's inherent within us. And that's right, because it's coming from the true nature, the Buddha nature. It already has it. So, and then liang, okay, so that's liangzi, and then liangneng is the ability without learning. So that's innate ability. So we have innate knowledge and innate ability. So, we tend to think that, oh, I have to learn something before I can do it, or, do something like, for example, driving a car, right? We got to learn how to drive, and then we can actually drive. But actually, that's not really true. If we follow our Buddha nature, the Buddha nature will know what to do. Now, we may not consciously know, what we're doing, but we'll do it. We'll be able to drive. Okay, so this is the liangzi liangnen. All right. Now, when we were little, nobody did not love their parents, right? I mean, the children, they love their parents, even if the parents, punish them or were doing something wrong. I mean, they cry, but then they still love the parents, okay? When seeing the parents, they know filial piety. So that's, I mean, from an adult point of view, we might say, well, that's not really filial piety, but it is, for children, anyways. It's part of that filial piety. So that is kind of inherent too. It's innate, an innate quality. When seeing elders, right, they know to respect them. Okay. So this is the conscience, right? It is because people have been influenced and affected by material desires and temperament that the conscience is not manifested. Right? So children, we say that they are pure and innocent, and basically they are manifesting their Buddha nature or their true nature via their conscience. Okay, now obviously it's not like us when we are rationalizing about it, talking about it in certain terms, is, oh, this is the conscience. They don't know about that. It's just that it's just natural, comes out, and that's what it is. This conscience is very natural. Okay, it's just that because we've gotten all this knowledge, we have these desires and attachments that we look at it differently. Okay, so it's no longer coming out naturally, and it's the desires and attachments, our discrimination, our biases, prejudices, they all kind of cover it up, okay, prevent that conscience from manifesting. All right. And the second one says, if inspired, the wicked will also cry bitterly. Oh, okay. So this is a little story too. It says conscience transforms a person. Wang Xingqi. Okay, so once upon a time, there was a prince. Okay, it was a prince named Xingqi. Every time he met people, he liked to talk about conscience. Now, over time, people in the neighborhood all knew that there was this prince who spoke about the conscience. Then one day, a group of about, 50, 60 robbers, they came to his house. The prince sincerely talked to them about the conscience, okay? So now the robbers, they said, people like us do evil deeds all day long, robbing and looting. So where is this conscience that you are speaking of? The prince said, well, can you completely remove all your clothes in front of me? So the robbers then, so they took off their clothes, but they didn't remove their pants, all right? So the prince then asked them, why are you not willing to remove your pants? The robbers looked at each other, but still nobody was willing to remove their pants. The prince then smiled and said, it is obvious that you still have a sense of shame. This is your innate conscience. Since your conscience is still there, then why are you not willing to be good? Therefore, so he tried to persuade them repeatedly, explaining all kinds of principles to them. So after a while, I guess these robbers were patient enough to listen to him. After a while, the 50 to 60 robbers were all willing to change from evil to good. Okay, now I don't know if this is some apocryphal story or what, but back then, even the thieves, there was the saying, "There's honor among thieves," right? Today you probably don't get that. There's probably no sense of honor at all. But back then, people were still, even though they were doing bad deeds, they were not that bad, okay, compared to today. So it can be seen that everyone has a conscience. To reveal and manifest the conscience, the innate knowledge and ability, first one must set an example, right? Be a role model before one can push others to establish merits. Right? Make sure to liberate oneself first, then push for others to reach the shore of enlightenment. Okay, so that's what the when we say 立立人及达达人. Okay, so to first we have to establish ourselves, and then if we aren't well established ourselves, we're kind of unstable, right? We're not steady in our own cultivation, then it's very hard to try to help others become established in their cultivation. And then to achieve, right? Now, achieve, of course, we haven't, none of us have achieved Buddhahood, but to achieve at least that greatest, that highest excellence, right? The manifesting following our conscience all the time, right? Then we can also help others to also achieve, right? So that's why the cultivation is, the two halves, the inner half, the self part, and then the others. These two, they kind of go together. I mean, even actually in helping others, even if we are not at that high level yet of cultivation or achievement, as we try to help others, that process, because it's not just, I mean, it's a continuous process. It will also help us in our own cultivation, because partly we are performing merits, right? Good deeds, merits, benefiting others. Then that also reduces our karmic debts. Okay, so when you reduce the karmic debts, those karmic debts you can think of as being obstacles to our cultivation and achievement. Therefore, that's partly then it makes it somewhat easier, right? So it's kind of it's kind of feeds on itself, right? So in the beginning, if we are cultivating, but we have, or we're trying to cultivate, and we have a lot of problems, difficulties. The easy thing to do is to say, oh man, this is too difficult. I have so many problems. I have to focus on those problems. I can't really cultivate. That's the easy thing to do. But then that doesn't make it any easy. It won't. We're still going to have that karma to deal with. Okay. So that's why we have to have faith, I guess. Faith and determination, the will to do what we have that faith in, what we believe in, this Tao, and that to help push us. So in those times when it is difficult, and we have to kind of push ourselves to continue, because as long as we are sincere, we put in that, we try our best, then that's what really matters, and things can turn around. Okay, we can change that situation. The Buddhas will help us. They can't remove they can't get rid of our karmic debts, but because we're sincere, they might, or especially for us, our holy teacher can help to negotiate and say, hey, please let this person cultivate. Look, they're very sincere. They're trying their best, and they'll, you'll get paid back. They'll pay off their debts. Okay, so then it will help. It will definitely help. But definitely, performing merits. Okay, so we should do our best in performing merits, right? Because that's the way to then a more direct way to pay off those karmic debts, right? Okay, and then okay, so wait a minute. So we have established. Establish and learning. Earnestly practice unwavering to establish others requires wisdom. We have to we have to use our wisdom. Again, wisdom is one of those innate qualities that we have, innate functions or abilities or knowledge. that we have. So it's not, we shouldn't be so fixed on, or stubborn in our ways when we are, trying to help others or deal with others. And, by achieving alignment and liberation, can one help others to achieve? Okay, so again, once we are very firm on our path, on our having been established and firm on our path of cultivation, then it is easier to help others to achieve on that path of cultivation as well. Okay. All right. All right. So all right. So now it's the next. Says 万世界为清平. Okay. So to bring peacefulness into the world, and 化人心为良善. Okay. So to transform human hearts into good, and to 济世界为大同. Okay, so this is to bring about world unity and harmony. Okay, so this is kind of like the conclusion of the purpose of the Tao. This is the objective. So to actively spreading the Tao and fairing people. Right? The ultimate concern for the individual is to avoid and escape disasters and to transcend birth and death. Now, okay. So, so Holy Teacher says, right, people who enter the Tao must have a purpose, right? So most people, they enter Tao, they have a motive, maybe some of them, they say, hey, I've encountered, many different people, right? So there's one person, he's like willing to try anything basically, because he has some I don't know, I think it was some health problem, and he was willing to try anything, so even to receive the Tao. So now, unfortunately, that's I mean that can lead to other issues, because they're not really sincere about it, right? They're just thinking they can try to get some benefit from receiving the Tao, and that's going in with the wrong attitude. You're not even going in with having faith. Okay, so but anyway, that's a different story. But okay, so people enter the Tao, they must have purpose. Only then can there be a thought of entering the Tao, right? So most people, they wouldn't think, want to. Why do I have to receive the Tao, right? There's no what can I get out of it, right? So most people are like that. Now, the purpose, of course, is to avoid disasters and transcend birth and death, so as to arouse the excitement of entering the Tao. Yeah, so that's what we say, of course, to you can say persuade or encourage people to receive the Tao. They can avoid disasters, and then ultimately to transcend the cycle of birth and death. Okay, so this is, I mean, it's not ideal, of course. It's not ideal, because ideally people, I don't know, when they hear about the Tao, they learn, of course, ideally it's they learn the principles, they hear about the principles, the truth, and they're excited about that. Not because, oh, there's some benefit to it. Okay, I mean, of course, there's going to be a benefit, but for most people, the benefit comes first. And then there could be a lack of sincerity, although sincerity can come later, I guess. That's probably for many people that's the case. All right. Now, as far as mankind is concerned, it is to bring peacefulness into the world and to bring about world unity and harmony. So this is kind of like the personal salvation thing, purpose, what people are looking for, but also at a broader level, which, as far as the whole of mankind, of humanity is concerned, then it's to bring peace into the world, right? To have a world of unity and harmony. So that's the broader goal. So that's really, so this purpose of Tao here is, at the broadest level, is that, right? To bring peace and unity and harmony to the world, the whole world, right? But obviously it's also to help us in our own personal cultivation and achievement, right? And then so, yeah, okay, so the world of five impurities. So we live in this world of five impurities and the turbulent ways. Okay, so the world we live in is the world of five impurities. People perform evil deeds and their lifetimes decrease. Right? According to the Buddhism, right, the human lifetimes, they start at a very, I don't know, it's inconceivable for us, but I think it's like 80,000 years or something like that. And then it's like decreases over time. And then so now we're at about 100 years, lifetime. Okay, and supposedly it's gonna go down even more. But anyways, so it's because of basically we perform evil deeds, create karma. So people are full of the three poisons, right? Greed, rage, or anger, and delusion, or stubbornness, obstinance, or fatuity. The world is full of crises and danger, hunger and starvation, disease, wars, etc. Right? People are deficient in the good roots, right? They're wallowing in the three poisons. So, and they're not following their conscience. They've covered up, they've suppressed the conscience. Right? They do not believe in causality and karma. Right? They do not uphold the precepts. So, so harmful teachings or evil doctrine are rampant. Right? People want to avoid the constant storms and dangers of the world, and this can be done only by constantly holding to our true nature to guard against defilement. Right? Yeah, so most people, or many people today, they don't really believe in causality or karma. They don't believe in past lives. So when you don't believe in past lives, then you don't believe in karma. Right? And so and then unfortunately, because we live in the age of science, everything is science-based, and so far we don't have scientific proof of reincarnation. So that's why it's difficult for many people to accept. And then of course, precepts, even in the practices, religious practices today, or even, the commandments or the precepts, they aren't really closely or strictly followed or practiced today, right? And then there's, of course, all sorts of harmful teachings or evil doctrine all over the place, right? Because now with the with the internet and social media and everything, even the news, right? All sorts of stuff, how we're getting all this information, and sometimes it's not correct information. Anyone, like you go on YouTube, you see all sorts of stuff that people claim or say, and most of it's like false, or there's no basis in fact. Okay, but they have this platform where they can do it. There's free speech, right? So we have to be careful. I mean, there's all this stuff that's being spouted, lies, conspiracy theories, etc. But unfortunately, people who lack the knowledge, lack the wisdom, they can fall for it, right? But if people want to avoid the dangers of the world, the calamities, the disasters, that's not the way to do it. I mean, that's the opposite. In fact, people continue to go down that path. They're also pursuing the material, the wealth, fame, etc., power, all these things. That's just going to bring about more of these calamities and disasters, right? Because again, and also because they're creating karma. So the only way to save ourselves and to save the world is to constantly hold on to our true nature and guard against any of these types of defilements, right? Okay. All right, so as a noble and virtuous person, do one's utmost to save a desperate situation. Holy teacher said, rather than lament the darkness of society, it is better to light up a lamp, or maybe a beacon. We should be the noble and virtuous in a deteriorating society, right? At least deteriorating in the moral sense, okay? The three-character classic, right, the Sanzi Jing, okay, says, originally humans have a good or kind-hearted nature, but people's hearts and minds are influenced by the customs that are in or out of favor, good or bad habits, and having good or bad friends, etc. Right? Therefore, we must understand human nature and persist in awakening people to eliminate their desires. Actually, I think it mentions, says that we people are born with the good nature, right? That true nature, the Buddha nature, and that is, and so why people become bad is the environment, due to the environment, right? Now, of course, karma plays a role, but karma doesn't by itself does not. I mean, when we have karmic debt, that doesn't make us do bad things, okay? Um, but so it's more really so this is the argument between nurture and nature, okay? So it's really the nurturing aspect and the environment aspect that is causing people to kind of deviate from their good nature, from their original good nature, pure nature. That's why today it's very difficult because of all, like I just said, all that stuff that's out there, that's distracting people and from being good, right? So in understanding, yeah, I mean it's human nature. Human nature is yin and yang, right? It can be good and bad. It's kind of in the middle, but or I mean, sorry, it can go either way, and it depends. So, and it's our choice, right? So we have to constantly fight. We're kind of fighting against a surging tide of misinformation and all this other stuff that's leading people away, towards desires, attachments, everything else. So for us, in educating, trying to talk about the Tao, teaching the principles, it's certainly a very limited audience. Most people they don't have time to listen to this. They'd rather be, uh, pursuing their desires. Okay, so it really is. It's unfortunate, and we can't really reach, transform everyone. Okay, not. So ultimately, that's why in some of the scriptures they say, right, in the end, I guess it would be, this world of harmony that we're talking about here. It'll be a small world in terms of the amount of people that's left in that world. All right. So they say it's only maybe like 10%. I mean, that's a round number, but so it's, in other words, it's just a very small number compared to current population. Okay, so now we eliminate vexations with our wisdom. Right? In the process of hearing, thinking, cultivating, practicing precepts, concentration and wisdom. Okay, people gradually learn the Buddha's Dharma, change their temperament, and transform their hearts into good. Right. So there has to be that patience, that interest in learning and wanting to improve oneself, not just materially but spiritually. And so, congratulations to everyone here for wanting to learn about this, wanting to study their Buddha nature, the true nature, the principles, and hopefully also to then put that into practice, right, to cultivate. Because otherwise, just learning by itself without doing anything, without applying it is, again, that's you're not going to achieve, okay? And then, so the pure mind is the Buddha Pure Land, right? If we can subdue the self, or desires, and return to propriety, then the world will return to benevolence. Okay, so that's, I think that's coming from Confucius, but, or well, part of it. Okay, so finally, the pure heart and mind is Buddha's Pure Land. If we can 克己复礼, right? That's comes from Confucius. It says subdue the self, or desire, subdue the desires, and return to propriety. Then the world will return to benevolence, right? These are the scenes of great harmony. So this is in order to achieve that world of great harmony, we have to start with the individual, start with the self, start getting rid of those desires. We have to get rid of that self, right? The selfishness, I guess, the self, the ego, and treat and become one with the world, one with all sentient beings. Then that is how we can ultimately achieve that world of great harmony. Okay. All right. So finally, get to the conclusion here. So the purpose of Tao, in a word, is respect. Okay, so I mean, you could say that's part of it. I mean, it starts off that way, right? But it says, so let's see. Yeah, I think because it starts off saying, to respect heaven and earth, right? To follow the ways of saintly, to love all nations, and act with loyalty, right? To have a sincere character and esteem the proper behavior, right? So talking about patriotism, loyalty, honor, respect, courtesy, or propriety. These are all the four sentiments. And then it goes on to talk about the filial piety, right? Honoring, respecting, and upholding teachers, trust in friends, and harmony with neighbors. Right? These are the four major aspirations. Okay, so these are all with part of the purpose of the Tao, right? And then we have so when we respect, right, the divinities, right, that's the first one, respect heaven and earth, Jing Tian Di, right? But when we respect sentient beings, so that's okay. So respecting the divinities, right, the Buddha, saints, that's when we say, right, respect heaven and earth. But respecting sentient beings, that's the part that we say ji li li ren, ji da da ren, right, where we establish ourselves and help others to be established, achieve ourselves and help others to achieve. Okay, so that's respecting all sentient beings. Then so this is the principle basically of this. So it's on the one side, it's above us, you can say, is the heaven and earth, the deity, the divinities, the Buddhas, saints, and then at our level or below our level, you can say, is the all other sentient beings. Okay, so this we have to try to achieve both, have respect for both in both directions. Now, the principle of Ji Li Li Ren, Ji Da Da Ren encourages people to cultivate the Tao, to love all people and things, right? Such as to protect life, to value our natural resources, etc. Right? It can create a warm, harmonious, and orderly society, right? So if everyone has respect, right, for not just people, not just their family, right? So the respect goes beyond the small circle that we normally have, like let's say maybe only our family or those close to us, but it has to expand, right, to include all of humanity, all sentient beings, and everything, the nature itself. Okay, so that's part of the heaven and earth. So that's expanding that circle. Einstein actually had said something too, like we have to expand that circle of compassion from those closest to us to include all of humanity. Okay, so same thing. In order to go from that tiny self to the big self, the oneness of all. Okay, so that's the only way to create this warm, harmonious, and orderly society. Now, in the Tao Te Ching, right, the classic of the way and the virtue, yeah, I guess many chapters are relevant, but this one in particular, chapter 54, which, I guess you can say that this is using from Lecture Kai's uh, material here, his translation, you can say it's called well established and in the practice of Tao, or it could also say that it's establish the practice of Tao and to hold or embrace the teachings of Tao. So this is what really what we're talking about here in the purpose of Tao. Right. So in this chapter it says, that which is well established cannot be uprooted, that which is strongly held cannot be taken. Therefore, the descendants will commemorate ceaselessly. Cultivate it in yourself, its virtue shall be true. Cultivate it in the family, its virtue shall be abundant. Cultivate it in the community, its virtue shall be lasting. Cultivate it in the country, its virtue shall be prosperous. Cultivate it in the world, its virtue shall be widespread. Therefore, observe others with yourself, observe others' families with your family, observe other communities with your community, observe other countries with your country, observe the world with the world. Right? With what do I know the world is like this? With this. Okay, so Lao Tzu, he's talking about the virtues of Tao. You can say the virtues of Tao. I mean, those are our innate, our true nature, our conscience, right? Our innate virtues. And so, just like we were saying in the purpose of Tao, I mean, it's the world. What you say? Okay, we look at the world as a whole, but what is the root? You can say of the world. You can say it's like the individual countries. Okay, because the world is not just one big country, right? So you have individual countries, and what is the root of the country is of any country, and you can say it's the communities or various societies within the country. And what is the root of the community? It's the family. Okay, that's the smaller. So getting to smaller and smaller units. And what is the root of the family? Well, that is the individual. Okay, so this Tao cultivation starts with the individual, but it needs to work its way out, broadening that circle, right? To go from yourself to your family, to the community, to the country, and then to the world. Okay, so that's how this Tao can spread around the world and to be able to create the world of great harmony. All right, so that's basically so we want to let Tao take root deeply within our heart and mind. Have a well-established practice of Tao, right? Let it be a part of our everyday life, right? So it can never be uprooted. Okay, so if we treat it as some, just like a special practice that we might do like an hour a day or something, then it's not, it's, we may not always continue doing that. Okay, so and it may not be so useful then in helping others. Okay, so it has to be the practice of the Tao has to be infused, permeate throughout our daily life. All right, and then so let your daily practice of the Tao be a lifelong commitment as well. Right. So again, if it becomes our part of our daily life, then of course it can then be a lifelong commitment. It will be easier to do that way. Okay, because if I have to say, oh, find some time, an hour of time a day to practice, then it may be hard over a lifetime to maintain that. But if it then becomes part of my everyday routine, everything that I do in everyday living, then it's natural, right? It's just there. We're just doing it as a matter of course, a matter of living, and therefore it's much easier for that to become then a lifelong commitment. So we embrace and hold onto the Tao, have deep belief and sincere faith in the Tao, right? Make it an unseen yet lasting aspect of our life. Actually, I mean, yeah, the Tao itself is unseen, but we see the results of it, right, through the practice, okay, through our cultivation. Replace the negative with the positive. That's always a good thing, right? Again, when we have difficulties, hardships, that you can say that that's kind of negative, but we should not have a negative view, a negative attitude towards that. Say, oh man, this is tough. This sucks, right? And then that negativity affects our ability to cultivate, okay, to progress. And so we should always try to be positive, even though I'm not saying that it should be just completely just based on hope that things will be better, but that's why you have to have a strong faith, if you will, in knowing, but also at the same time, be practical and realizing that yes, I can try my best to make things better, to overcome these hardships and difficulties, but also realize that even if I can't, even if I still have these difficulties, I can't overcome them. That's okay. Okay, as long as I'm doing my best and I'm sincere. In the end, right? This is kind of short term. In the end, I will overcome when I transcend this cycle of birth and death. Okay, so that's kind of looking at the bigger picture, looking at the ultimate goal. So not worrying too much about the short term conditions. So this is to plant the seeds of goodness, which is over time will displace and replace the negativity. Okay, so bring the Tao into your family. All right. So create Tao-centric traditions. Right. Emphasize mutual understanding and harmony. This will have far-reaching impact. Sure. So as an individual, we receive the Tao. Ideally, the whole family is received the Tao and is cultivating together as a family. That is always the best because then you won't have conflicts, you won't have difficult, it'll be easier, all right? There will be less of an obstacle to cultivate. Let's say if I receive the Tao and the rest of the family has not, and I'm a vegetarian or vegan, and the rest of the family are not, then it becomes a little difficult, right? So if the whole family is also cultivating and everyone can be vegetarian together as family, then that makes things much easier. All right. Okay, so share the Tao with then so then you go share it with the community. Also consider our extended family, expanded social circle, workplace, neighbors, etc. So we should do our best. So that's why always try to be on good terms with our neighbors, our friends, our coworkers, and then hopefully, if there's that affinity, we can try to introduce them to the Tao. Right? Let the Tao expand into the country, right? Especially through the use of today's technology, right? So all these, the social media, the internet, all these platforms are there that we can use, right? So I post the our recordings, the class recordings onto YouTube, so it's public. Anyone who is interested can watch it, right? Spread the message of the Tao to the world. The Tao still remains relatively unknown today, right? So there's obviously a lot of opportunity to spread, right? So our efforts may mean the world to someone out there, right? So that's what the pioneering the Tao is about, right? We bring Tao to a place that no one knows about the Tao. Now, obviously, that's difficult, but there are sure to be some people who have affinity there to the Tao and will be willing to receive the Tao. It's just that we don't know who they are, but taking on that mission to pioneer the Tao, it's a great mission. So that's one of the you can say the greatest merits. We're not talking about trying to get merits, but because it has the greatest benefit to people, that those people who may have the affinity, but they're just in a place where the Tao isn't there yet, and if then they can hear about the Tao and then receive the Tao, and that can save them, right? And then again, it can spread from there. Okay. So in our own cultivation, right? So we learn from others through observation, give others a hand when they falter. Again, we help each other in our cultivation, and try to establish ourselves. We help others to establish themselves, and likewise, they can help us when we stumble. Cultivation, with our loved ones, right? Observed and learned from the harmony that others have created and maintained in our relationships. Okay, so we see, we should always try to learn from others as well. I mean, whether it's just where we're talking to them or we just observing, seeing how they are, especially, with cultivators, then we can certainly, that can help us in our own cultivation. Right, cultivation with friends, right? Our circle of influence will naturally expand as we master this Tao cultivation, right, in our own lives. Okay, so that is that's how we can influence them, right? We may not necessarily have to talk too much about the Tao to them, but when they see that we changed, right, then they'll be curious. They'll say, "Hey, how come you used to be whatever, have bad habits, bad temper. Now you're much better." Then that's a way to kind of get into introducing them to the Tao, right? Okay, so when the perfect order prevails, right, the world is like a home shared by all. So that is that's the last phrase, or near the end of the Confucius ideal for world harmony. Okay, so that's, you can say, that's the final objective, right? So when the Tao is practiced by all, right, the world is one, right? One harmonious or community. Okay, so the opening line. That was the opening line, not the end. Of the world of harmony, ideal for world harmony says, when the world order prevails, when the perfect order prevails, the world is like a home shared by all. Therefore, we must promote the great Tao and act according to the purpose of Tao. Right. So to achieve this goal, we must practice respect for heaven and earth, follow the ways of saintly, etc. What the purpose of Tao that we talked about. What it's basically like a prescription or a blueprint for us to achieve that world of harmony, to restore our original bright nature and inspire the highest excellence in our own conscience. All right. so yeah, and then to do our best to achieve the Tao of humanity. So this is really this part. So not when we are cultivating just for ourselves and not really helping others, then we're not really achieving the Tao of humanity. And remember that to achieve the Tao of heaven, which is what we're talking about, when we achieving the Tao, we have to achieve the Tao of humanity first. So that's why we have to involve or try to get involved, help others, be a benefit to others. Okay. So this is to do our best to achieve the Tao of humanity, right? And that is, having the skill to have the inner virtues of a sage and the outer manners of a king, right? So in Chinese it says 内圣外王. Okay, so that's what that says: the inner virtues of a sage or a saint and the outer manners of a king, like a benevolent king. So that's maybe that's a very tall order, aspiration, but something that we should strive towards for. So the purpose of Tao was set by holy teachers, but depends on us to fulfill that destiny. Okay, right? Because the holy teachers are not here physically in this world anymore, and it's they kind of guided us and set this purpose of Tao as a guide for us to achieve that goal. Right? So we want to transform the world into one family, let the golden thread of heaven's mandate to be prevalent around the world. Okay, let all things be satisfactory, or have their needs fulfilled, etc. And let people's hearts be at peace. Then the world of great harmony is right in front of us. All right, so this is basically, that is the purpose of Tao. So it is, you can say, it's not, I mean, it's basically has the spiritual aspect, right, for salvation, transcendence from the cycle of birth and death, but also you can say the more, I would say, worldly aspect, which is to create this world of great harmony that was envisioned by Confucius. Okay, so and the only way to achieve that is through the purpose of Tao. All right, so I guess that's it. All right, so if I had said anything wrong or not satisfactory, I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness, and also asked transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Thank you